The reason why week 4 is important is it is a great point to have your first real check around the league to see who's legitimate and who is going to falter and tank and not be there at the end of the year. So we are going to do our who are forces and who are frauds video for the first time this year. I'm going to take everyone with a winning record and everyone that was hyped in the preseason and tell you if I think they have a legit chance to compete in the playoffs or if they are frauds. The NFC East. And the only undefeated team left, the Philadelphia Eagles, they are 100% forces. They have a great roster with a pretty good quarterback. They have an easy schedule. If they win both games against the Cowboys, which I think they do, they are going to be the 1 or the 2 seed, and they are going to probably have the easiest road to the NFC Championship in the NFC. Now, the Cowboys, also 3-1. They are undefeated without Dak. That is why I am calling them forces, but they are not legit forces. They are borderline frauds to me. They have a good pass rush, which makes them dangerous, but they're not as talented this year on offense as they've been the past 5 years, and the offense wasn't enough with Dak in his prime, with a healthy throwing hand, with that much weaponry. Why is this year going to be any different if that's the case? I think you need a top 10 quarterback or a top 3 roster to win a Super Bowl. To me, the Cowboys have neither, so I have them as forces. They will make the playoffs. They might win a game in the playoffs. They are definitely not going to make the Super Bowl. Now, the 3-1 team that is not like the others, the New York Giants, they suck. They are frauds. Daniel Jones is awful. As long as he is taking snaps for the New York Giants, they have no chance of being an above 500 team at the end of the year. 3-1 is probably going to quickly turn into 4-6 for them, and they are not going to win more than 7 games this year. They're frauds. To the NFC North, 2 teams here. One, the Vikings, technically in first place right now with the tiebreaker, 3-1. They are frauds. And I'm calling them frauds, even though they are probably going to make a wild card team, because this is a team that had possible deep playoff run Super Bowl aspirations before the year started. They won a game that's a week 1 game where anything can happen against the Packers, and they look great. They looked awful against the Eagles, who is the only other good team they played. The Lions, who just gave up 48 points to the Seahawks at home. They managed to score less than 30 and barely beat them. They're lucky they won that game. And they barely beat the Saints in London. The Vikings are very overrated. Kirk Cousins is very overrated. They are not a real threat. The Packers, on the other hand, are a force. And I know that they don't make the Super Bowl. They always choke in the playoffs, yada, yada, yada. Aaron Rodgers is still a top 3 quarterback in the league, which he will remain at that point until he retires. He was obviously more comfortable. The offense was a lot better with Lazard back this weekend. The rookies are going to get better as the year goes on. Their defense is solid. They are going to ho-hum, win the division again, and probably win at least 1 playoff game again. Now, NFC West, 2 teams out there to talk about. The first one, the Niners. They are forces. They are forces despite Jimmy Garoppolo being the quarterback, because they are stacked on defense and they have a bunch of weapons on offense, and they are creative with their play calling. And Jimmy G, who had one of the worst games you'll ever see, made the worst play a quarterback has ever made in NFL history by managing to step out of bounds for a safety while throwing a pick 6. Truly a work of art. He looked 10 times better this week. People are going to think it's because the 49ers just own the Rams. I honestly think it's because Jimmy's just getting back into the groove of playing. He's not good. He doesn't have to be good in the NFC this year to make it to the second, third round of the playoffs with how good the rest of the team is. The other team, the Rams, who I thought were going to be back-to-back Super Bowl winners at the start of the year, look terrible. They are still forces just because they have all the pieces there. They just need Stafford to get healthier. They need Stafford to be smarter. Their defense needs to improve. They have all the pieces in place. They are a team that might wind up winning 9-10 games, sneaking into the playoffs, and then making a good run from there, because they are always going to be dangerous if they are healthy, no matter what their record says, no matter what their stats say. The last team in the NFC we're going to look at, the NFC South, the Bucs, 2-2, a lot of preseason hype. They are 100% forces. They have gotten off to a horrible start. Injury luck-wise, they have no rhythm on offense. Their defense is still good. If Brady can still have enough arm strength left at the end of the year to make above-average NFL throws, and their defense stays healthy, and their offense gets healthy and gets comfortable, the Bucs are probably the team to beat in the NFC. They have the chance to be dark horse spots that people are going to overlook, that have momentum going into the playoffs, that will then carry the momentum through the playoffs. Do not count them out ever until they are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. Now, in the AFC, we have the Buffalo Bills, 3-1, obviously forces. We're not going to spend any time talking about them. They're the best team on paper in the league. Josh Allen's the MVP favorite. The Dolphins, 3-1. This sucks because I thought they were frauds coming into the season, and they are frauds now. but they were going to be forces. They are frauds because of an injury. I don't think we're going to see Tua for at least half the year. They're going to have to be so overly cautious with him because of what happened. Tyreek Hill really did make a difference going over there. They still have the talent to win, but if they can get into the playoffs and they have Tua back healthy playing well in the playoffs, they can beat anybody. AFC North, the Ravens are frauds. Every year you hear the same thing. This is a solid team, great coach, dynamic quarterback, and yet they always manage to not win. They blew another big lead. They've blown 2 huge leads in 2 of the 4 games. That's a horrible sign. I do not trust them in a big game. I do not think they have a chance of beating the Bills, the Chiefs, the Chargers in a big game. I don't even think they beat the Bengals in a big game. The Bengals, they're forces. They're starting to protect Joe Moore. Back-to-back weeks, they kind of kept his jersey a little bit cleaner than they did the first 2 weeks. If they continue to protect him, T. Higgins can avoid injury. They are a dynamic offense with a good enough defense. They will win the North. They will make noise in the playoffs. Going now to the AFC South. The Jaguars are a surprising team, even though they're 2-2. I'm going to talk about them. They're forces in the sense that they do have a legit chance of making the playoffs. The Jaguars are really solid. They're not great. They're going to be rough at times this year. They're going to look great at times this year because they're young, but they have talent. Watch out for them. Titans, they're forces in the sense that they're going to probably make the playoffs. They're good enough to make the playoffs. They're probably going to lose in the first round, definitely the second round. They're just not good enough to beat the Chiefs or the Bills to me consistently. I don't like their odds in those matchups. So now we're going out to the AFC West because the whole division, and we were going to do the whole division, was hyped before the year. The Chiefs are absolutely forces. I think the Chiefs and the Bills are going to be the best game of the playoffs for a 3rd straight year. I think that that's an inevitable collision course, and I think for the 3rd straight year with the way that both teams look right now, if they stay the same level of health, the same level of play, the Chiefs would at this moment be my favorites in that game regardless of where it's played. Now, the Broncos are 2-2. They are complete frauds. I never believed in them at the start of the year. I thought they were going to be the 4th place team in the best division in football. I thought they were going to win 7 or 8 games because I didn't think their offense was as good as people thought it was, and I thought their defense was good, not great. Russell Wilson has not looked that great for them. Nathaniel Hackett looks like he's way in over his head. There's no shot I'm taking them seriously. I think they're lucky if they win 7 games, especially now with Williams out. The Raiders, also frauds. They are not a 10-win team. A lot of people like their defense the most of the 4 in that division. They were dark horses. Carr looks awful despite having the most talent around him he's ever had. They have to get better. They still have a pretty good chance of making a wild card spot. And with the amount of talent, they could win a game or 2 in the playoffs, but I just don't see it being a realistic, heavy probability. The Chargers, on the other hand, are complete forces. They have a bunch of injuries they're dealing with. Herbert looked great despite the rib issue. He's going to get better as the year goes on. They're still loaded on offense. They still have enough pieces on defense. Basically, Mac replaced Bosa. If Bosa can come back later in the year and Mac stays healthy, it's another situation exactly like the Buccaneers where you have a team that's probably going to be better than their record getting into the playoffs and just ruining runs for favorites. So that does it for our frauds and forces video. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit the like button and the sub button so you can catch the next one. Until then, take care.